Welcome to the Short Funk Podcast. I'm Tom Barbalet, and today a topic suggested by my wife. My wife was talking to me about a particular episode of the Short Funk Podcast. She's an avid listener, by the way, as many of you are, associated with recording music for podcasts. And in her description of this, I thought she was actually talking about how I picked the title for these Short Funk podcasts. There are two options when I come to selecting a title. The first is that I just call a title by what I call the audio, and every time I record a Short Funk, and sometimes I've really had problems with this, particularly the whole dream interpretation thing where I completely lost a whole episode because I mislabeled the first one and then realised I'd actually put out the second one, and by that point the first one had very limited relevance and the second one actually stood on its own. In any case, when I come to finding titles for these Short Funk recordings, it goes one of two ways. Either I pick the most obvious title, which is typically what I call the audio, or I take the title in a completely different direction so not even I can intelligibly understand what I was in fact recording or putting together when I put that episode out. And usually, almost always in fact, it's the latter. I also do this with a number of my other podcasts. In fact, none of my podcasts have a title per se. They all tend to be like some kind of musing, rambling, abstract idea that might have been raised somewhere through the recording. But in the case of Short Funk, I actually have somewhat of a luxury, since it's typically only one or two topics that are kind of meandered together into these episodes. And for that reason, my titles will almost always be something slightly related, maybe a whimsical pun, maybe a reference or an antithetical description of what I'm talking about, in order to spark a little whimsy perhaps in the whole thing. And in this light, I typically find titles that will be relatively unique and, add a certain degree of anticipation, hopefully, to the recording, so people might think, well, gee, maybe I should actually listen to this. As my wife pointed out, my recordings of Field of Chaos kind of fell by the wayside, as did the Art of Rap podcasts, which, by her review standards, went on and on. But I'd like to put to you, because I know a majority of you aren't going to join the Short Funk Facebook page, I'm just kind of discarding that, my general narrative, that if you want to get in contact with me, tom@nobleape.com will be going on for the foreseeable future. My hope was to move to a Short Funk specific email address sometime in the near future, but as my time lays itself out, switching email servers and updating clients and updating folks, family members that my email address might be changing, these kind of things are way too technical. So for now, I'm just going to continue recording these Short Funk podcasts and find names for them. That is, in and of itself, quite an interesting process. Tom Barbalet in San Jose, signing out.